All right, so moving on to the next question that was submitted is there was a lot of talk among the panelists about finding what you're passionate about. How would you suggest going about doing that with so many topics of research that are available right now?
Not to sound too much like Yoda, but search your feelings. If there's something that you're enthusiastic about, that you catch yourself thinking about outside work, or a problem from work that you bring home and still thinking about it. I think Laura said something about finding a research topic by reading it was Scientific American, right? So you're sort of entertaining yourself and you came across something, you go, whoa, like one of my favorite papers was, inspired by Nova. I was having fun and I said, holy cow, this is cool, right? So it's just, I guess I'm being super serious, like pay attention to the stuff that enthralls you outside work, or the part of work that continues to seek your attention when you're not working.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's got to be something that you really feel passionate about and that you love and that you keep wanting to, like, read papers on or find out more about. I mean, when you're doing a PhD, like, you've got to really love that project that you're working on and that idea that you're doing the studies on. So because your experiments aren't always going to work, right? So you've got to have something that keeps you going on that project, on that study that you're doing. So it's got to be something that you really, do have some passion about. And, there's not really any way to teach someone passion, right? Like you'll know it when it hits you, right? You'll be like, oh yeah, this is so cool. I really want to study more about this, and I mean, and that's how it was for me. And even to this day, I still study adult neurogenesis amongst the stuff that I do, because I'm still like super passionate about it. And when I think about switching to a totally separate research topic, I still kind of come back to this idea because I still think it's super cool and I'm really passionate about it. So.
Something that I tell undergraduates when they tell me, oh, but there are all these exciting projects. It's like, well, find out whether there is room for you in that lab. That might tell you, okay, out of those 4 people, you cannot do, you can only go to 2 of them. And also, yeah, so circumstances sometimes will help narrow the list, right? And I always tell them, no matter who you choose, you'll get a good research experience. And so for those of you who are PhD students, for example, looking for postdocs, I think that same general rule applies. You might be interested in, a number of different things, but it might be that, something works out better than the others. And that is what then you will follow. But it's important at that point, for example, in this particular example, not to spread yourself out too thin, right? You want to, your certain areas that you're interested in, and can you live with it? Because you don't want to make a choice that you absolutely cannot live with. I remember when I was choosing my postdoc lab, I had done a PhD in India, so really looking at postdoc labs was a little difficult, which was made easy by my advisor having me go overseas for like a period of 4 months. And the lab that I chose ended up being a lab where they were doing laser ablations, and I was studying nerve muscle interactions at the time, and or rather had done my PhD work was on just looking at development of muscles, neurons, attachments, everything to do with the muscular system. And this lab was doing looking at nerve muscle communication. And so he had this cool technique in the lab that you could view down through the microscope, and whatever you saw, what was in focus, you can burn that cell, nick the nerve. I was like, this is cool. And you know what? The beauty of that was you could do it. I work with fruit flies, so we would do it in larvae. Well, you do the ablation on one hemisegment, the other one is your internal control. It blew my mind, and so that I was like, that's the one I'm going to choose. I've decided, so again, just an example, but what do they say? I think I may butcher this, but you say you get lucky. No, it is when you have the opportunity and it meets preparation. That is when it works out to be the best recipe.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things I love is falling in love with like the technical problem, and then making sure that that problem has applications down the line. I want to work on something that's very interesting and intriguing, but also I know will make a difference. And I think for me, the PhD a lot was that, maybe that's materials side of it. And then the postdoc, which is completely different, right? Going from a clean room and doing that to now, yeast and E. coli expression and doing that. Very different, but I could see the problem. I could see the technical problem. And I thought it was really useful to, developing knowledge and applications. Same thing within industry, particular problems that we look at. Some of them can be to help people that have, sensitive skin issues and these health concerns with that. I mean, you may not think of that from a, commodities or consumer product company, but that's something that we do focus on, and you can get in love with that problem, right? And trying to help people and making an impact. And so, if I was choosing a lab as an undergrad, graduate student, I would still do that. I would try to fall in love with the problem and make sure that it's beneficial, the solution.